Welcome back to Arizona Real Estate Matters, brought to you by Empire West Title. Our next guest is Deborah Gordon. She is with TCT Real Estate, the Cascade team. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Basically, I've been selling real estate in one form or another since 1977, before many of my clients were even born. In fact, I've done a lot of commercial real estate. I did site acquisitions from Chicago to Texas for Popeye's Fried Chicken and other retailers. Right now, I'm focusing a lot on the millennials, or on trying to convert most renters into buyers, which is perfect, coming off of listening to what Ramel said. I have children that are 25 years old, and their friends are just now beginning to make enough money where they can afford to purchase homes. Afford rent at $1,300, $1,400 a month. At $1,400 a month, that's a $225,000 home, including taxes and insurance. Now, if they do not have enough funds for a down payment of 3.5%, let's just round and say that would be about $8,000. They can go to Ramel and get a down payment assistance program. And Josh started talking about getting concessions from the seller. So sometimes if a home is $200,000, we may offer $205,000, and the seller will come through with part of the down payment. So in essence, what you're getting is a home that you can call your own. That could be less to get into than paying a month of security deposit,
rental
pet
security
deposit,
yeah.
dog deposit, cleaning fee, and it's yours. Once you obtain a mortgage, it will not go up. Once you lease a property, I guarantee it will go up next year. So my goal is to take renters and turn them into homeowners, so that they can start the basic foundation of their wealth and experience, I guess, what many people are calling pride of ownership. I just love that. That would be my market segment that I focus on. The other things that I have to offer is a company that I work for, TCT Real Estate. They have 11 offices and have started in Washington, Seattle, San Diego, Colorado. What they have to offer most sellers is we build a website for each listing, virtual tour. We have Google Street View, school and community information. We optimize on YouTube. We do paid Facebook ads, staging, professional photos, online syndication. All this can be done with my company as a listing agent. Now, we talked about the market segment, and anything under $300,000 in this market, whether it's in Buckeye or in Gilbert, if it is priced correctly and it is staged for moving condition, it will sell in the first week. Yeah. That is our hottest market, and right now, just to give you a point of reference, there's only 25,000 homes in the MLS, all prices. In 2011, there were 67,000 properties available. So we are at a very low market inventory for anything under 300,000. So if you have a home in that price range and it hasn't sold, then either the pictures are not good, the house looks like, it needs some work, or it is not priced right. Let me help you to sell your property quickly. I can tell you for a fact that every listing I have taken under $300,000 has sold with multiple offers in the first week that it has been on the market, and many of them have sold at a higher price than what we offered it out at, because they were priced right and they look beautiful. Yeah. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get the home ready for sale, but it is well worth it in the end, and I can lead you through all this.
And I actually work with Deborah. I do marketing. I helped Deborah with her marketing. And it's interesting when I do Deborah's marketing because she's able to put everything in very, very, very common layman terms that make sense. But your marketing pieces that we create, they really are powerful because we like to show, hey man, if you're paying $1,300, $1,400 a month, you can get a house for $225,000. If you're spending $1,500, it's you pay $250,000 house. And we do a lot of that comparison. Also taking a look at how much money people pay in rent over a 3 or 4 or 5 year period of time. It blows people away when they actually calculate and put it all together. Furthermore, one of the greatest things that she brought up is that anymore with the down payment assistance programs, with maybe getting some help from the sellers, you can get into these properties for less than what a security deposit would be for renting a property. Wouldn't you rather own?
And let me add something to that, Josh. Many of the people that I work with are still single. So I advocate for them to rent out one of the bedrooms to help pay the cost. So if total cost, utilities included, are $1,600 and they have their best friend living in one of the 3 bedrooms, they're paying $700-800. Well, you know what? This is cheaper than rent for the buyer, and they're living with a friend, and they're building their foundation. And
not to mention, there's some tax benefits too that they're gonna receive.
Exactly, because as we all know that the interest is very high in the first couple of years. Many of the single people do not have a family to use as a depreciation. That interest rate comes very in handy.
Yeah, and Deb also, she markets a lot to, not that she's limited to, but she does a lot of marketing to millennials, which, if you know, marketing to millennials is a completely different object. It's not necessarily a postcard campaign, more social media, text type of stuff. So, if you are a millennial and you need some help, Deb will put her, how many years? 27 years? How many?
I'm going
years?
on 40 years of 40 experience.
Years. She's one of the few guests we've had on here that has outpaced me as far as time.
I know,
yeah. And so, because I'm going, next year will be my 34th year. So, when you said you got in the business in 1977, I remember those days because my grandfather and father were both escrow officers. And when I started selling real estate myself in 1983, we would carry the MLS books around in our trunk of our car, with
one black and white, almost gray picture that would come out weekly.
Yes,
Things
if it had a
changed.
picture.
Yes.
Sometimes there was no picture; it was just the information. So when you went, if somebody called you up and says, "Hey, I want to look for some homes," you would have to go get this huge book. And guys, when I say huge book, this thing was like 3 phone books end to end. I mean, this thing was massive, and you'd sit at your desk and look at this thing. And then you had to call everybody because it wasn't updated like every second like it is now. I mean, so you'd have to call people, hey, is this still available? Is this still available? And you'd have to go through property after property of no, yes, okay, this one is. It was different.
It's amazing. We even sold real estate before.
It was,
1990.
World. The buyer and the seller sat at the table with their respective realtor, and they shook hands. We did this all on 1 or 2 pieces of paper. It is not like that now. It's a completely different world that we live in, and time and contracts make all the difference in a successful transaction, and I am here to help you.
Well, we used to have to chisel out the on a piece of slate.
On a piece of slate.
Yeah. It wasn't that bad. Yeah. But the contracts were 1 page. So you're right. Things have evolved immensely. And you mentioned, advertising to millennials, which I got to be honest with you, I didn't realize there was such a big gap. As far as that's concerned, even though when you get down to brass tacks, it's still real estate. It's still black and white. It's still very, here it is, boom, boom, boom. But in order to attract those people, in order to get the message out to those people,
presented in a different way.
So like Deborah, you're saying that, you got some young single people that, and I've had a lot of tax advisors and CPAs tell people, it's like, look, you're starting to make a pretty good living. You need some tax write-offs. And the first question they say is, well, what do I need to do? And one of the first things they tell them is buy some real estate. Mm-hmm. You need to buy a home, and that will help you immensely.
Exactly. But I also want to say I do work with adult active communities as well. And right now I'd like to discuss a listing that I have that is in Scottsdale Mountain in a small enclave called the Canyons. It is a home that is not for everybody. It is a super special home. It's almost 11,000 square feet. It has an entertainment area both in the front of the home and in the back of the home. And when I say entertainment, I mean beautiful views, barbecues. It's function combined with intelligent design and privacy. Basically, harmony in the home and harmony with nature. It's a perfect blend of city lights, natural boulders, both to the east and to the west. Completely separate guest wings provide total privacy from the main living spaces. And I would love to show this property to those people. My name is Deborah Gordon. My phone number is 480-586-8880, 480-586-8880. I like to talk to people first by phone. I am very up on texting and using the computer, but the first conversation, regardless of what age group you're in, needs to be with a phone call to me. That way we can specifically talk about what you need, what you want, how I can help you reach your real estate goals. And my slogan has become how to take your realty and make it a reality.
We put that on all the postcards. She came up with that. And
well, that's one thing that's missing, though, in our industry is that lack of communication, and not just, some people say, well, I text them, I emailed them. No, that's not it. There is no emotion in text. I don't care if you use caps or not caps. That doesn't do
emojis.
Anything. Yeah, I did. No. There's something in somebody's voice. The inflection of somebody's voice will tell you a lot about that person. And you can't get a warm fuzzy from a text or an email.
I need to ask questions.
Yeah, you need to know those people.
A little bit more about what their goals are, when their goals are, how important a pool is. There's so many little nuances to finding the perfect home. It cannot be done by text.
And if you're working with someone that has 40 years experience, Deb knows the right questions to ask. I mean, if you are not necessarily just a millennial, but if you are a buyer or a seller and you need somebody with a good experience and is a great communicator, I highly recommend Deb Gordon.
Thanay you, Josh. I knew you would.
You can pay me later. Yeah.
Well, having 40 years of experience, I mean, you've seen a lot of things. And even though our industry is evolving, you still can tap into some of those things from years ago that still work today. Real estate is still a piece of dirt with a house on it or a building on it. It hasn't changed.
There's the same satisfaction today or 40 years ago of bringing a buyer to a home that they love. And helping a seller reach their goals, which might be downsizing, upsizing, moving out of state, so that it still remains the same. Getting from one place to another now is a lot more complex and complicated, and that's where I think being a professional in this industry will really help both buyers and sellers get to where they want to go.
Hey, Deb, I wanted to ask you, and I didn't hear you say, what on your listing that you were just talking about, what is that at? Is there an address or a subdivision? Where is that located?
Well, I don't want to give out the address,
That's
but
okay.
I did say it was in Scottsdale Mountain, which is a guarded, gated community.
Awesome.
And it's in a little enclave called the Canyons, which is, again, another gated community within Scottsdale Mountain.
Perfect.
So if anybody would like to know the address and discuss it more fully, you've got my phone number. Let me give it to you one more time.
Yep,
480-586-8880.
Cool. Now, Deb, I know that you this property's in Scottsdale. You live in Scottsdale Paradise Valley area, but you work the whole valley. And what are you, as far as from Queen Creek and Santan Valley all the way to Buckeye, from Surprise all the way to Anthem or whatever the case is. What is probably the biggest piece of advice you could give, let's say, to a home seller? As far as it's now time. The market's great. We want to move up. As a home seller, what's the biggest piece of advice you could give somebody?
If your realtor is telling you that your home is valued at the market value of $300,000, and you say, let's put it on the market for $350,000. We don't want to leave any money on the table. We want to see if somebody will give us a bid at $3 or an offer at $3.25. That is that's only going to hurt you. It will sell best in the first 2 weeks. You will get closest to your asking price in the first 2 weeks. At $350,000, you might be priced out of the market completely. So my point is, to a seller, have your home in move-in condition and have it priced correctly.
Deborah, thank you so much. You're a wealth of knowledge. That's Deborah Gordon with TCT Real Estate, the Cascade team. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And Ramal Motley from Prime Lending, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And Josh, another great show.
Thanks a lot, Phil.
And we will talk to you guys next week.